Well, I was kinda right. There was quite a lot of discussion this chapter, but before I give my opinion of it, I want to say something serious. Things like this should not be said as a fucking joke. I know most do, and I am certain that 99% of people will not do anything if Izuku and Uraraka go into a relationship, but there is always that 1%, whether it be a relationship or a character dying. Some of us still remember what happened to the Russian guy after Itachi got killed. Let's not do anything stupid. Even if you're joking, even if you intend to not do anything, please do not do anything harmful to yourself over a fucking drawing. So anyways, after I said what I wanted to say over this, what do I feel about chapter 429? I feel that it was incredibly rushed, for one, and two, it was crammed with a lot of information that should have been distributed a bit better. What do I mean by that? Todoroki got a full chapter to himself, Spinner got a full chapter to himself, Uraraka barely got half a chapter. As the main heroine of the story, I have no idea why Horikoshi didn't give her a whole chapter to herself too. Instead, we got a couple of pages of their talk that was prematurely ended, a talk that was set up for over 100 chapters. In between said talk, we got the Tenku parallel, the talk between All Might and Hawks about what they should be doing with the hero ranking system, and the Aoyama farewell party that was handled in a couple of panels. And not only was it rushed, I actually feel that it resolved absolutely nothing. They talked, Deku was saying how he sees her as his hero, how he feels her pain since he experienced something similar with Tenko. They cried for a bit. The conversation stops preemptively because Class A must always be included in everything, and then in the final chapter, they're smiling like all the problems have been resolved. No, they barely even touched on the problems, and I feel this problem could have been easily resolved if last chapter was not full of incredibly pointless stuff. As I said in the previous video, outside of the first 2 pages and the last 2 pages, everything else was pretty much pointless. We already know that the heroes are working on fixing the city, we already know that Edgeshot is alive, and showing us how the civilians have started to do something to help the heroes could have been removed from last chapter and just used the same way it is used now with Tenko's parallel. It tells us the same thing, so why did we need to see it again? I truly believe that chapter 428 was a waste of time, and because of it, chapter 429 needed to focus on multiple things that should have been spread out in a couple of chapters. And even worse is, because of that, Uraraka's final chapter is actually quite disappointing, because 430 is the final chapter of the series, and it's more than likely going to be a time skip. So this is probably, I'm not sure but probably, the last time we are seeing pre-time skip characters. I always defended Uraraka as a character, I always defended Horikoshi as a writer, but why exactly did he rush her story specifically? Todoroki was fine, Spinner was fine, Bakugo was fine, but the heroine of the story is rushed? Why? Also, let's be honest, if 428 was dedicated entirely to Uraraka, 429 could have been entirely about Tenko's parallel, which I personally feel is a really important part of the My Hero world. It shows us the change in society that Deku has managed to create. So just cramming that storyline between the other one that we have waited for 100 chapters plus feels dishonest, rushed, and quite honestly, quite badly written. 430, it's more than likely going to be a Naruto style ending, where we see how everyone is in the future, who ended up with who, and just finally catching up to Deku who was telling us the story. Honestly, it's not even the worst manga chapter I have ever read. Wait, scratch that. It's not even the worst My Hero Academia chapter I have ever read, but it's the second to last chapter of the whole series. Excuse me if I'm feeling a bit disappointed. When writing the ending to your heroine and one of your most important plot lines in the story, you actually need to put a bit more care into it. Even more so when you compare with the previous characters that got their conclusions not even 2 chapters ago. I really hope the last chapter doesn't disappoint. I still have high hopes of My Hero Academia ending on a good note.